What's up, everybody? Ron Placone here. You can pre-order Left at Wall now on Apple TV. The link is in the show notes, or you can just go to Apple TV, search Left at Wall. It should come right up. You can pre-order the movie now. Left at Wall will be officially released on January 24th. If you are an Apple TV subscriber, please do pre-order it if you are able. The more pre-orders we get, the better placement we'll have when we're a new release. So it'd be really awesome to make the front page. So please, if you're an Apple TV user, please pre-order Left at Wall. Link is in the show notes, and or you could just search it, Apple TV Left at Wall. If you're not an Apple TV user, don't worry. Once Left at Wall is released on January 24th, it's going to be in a bunch of different places. So there'll be plenty of platforms which you can see it on. And I'll, of course, be giving all that information as the release date gets closer. But now you can pre-order it right now. Apple TV, Left at Wall. The wait is finally over. Peace. Episode 70. Sally Mullins. Sally Mullins is an actress, comedian, animal rescuer, and porn star. Also, she's in my movie, Left at Wall. She's hilarious. I met her in the LA comedy scene and wanted to know more about her origin story. Among other things, we talk about sexuality, different kinks people have, and her experience as a dominatrix. Please welcome to the show, Sally Mullins. Sally Mullins, good to see you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing my movie, too, by the way. I should say that now.
I want to see that movie, and not just because I'm in it. It just looks really good, and it looks like a teachable moment for me. Like, I'm going to learn about that whole, thing that happened in, 2020? I'm going to learn from it.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, well, couple weeks now.
Oh, sorry. I got a lot of pets, and the school bus comes right up on my yard, which was one of the worst things about moving here was the school bus.
So the
and my dog barks. Yeah, he's barking. Yeah.
How many dogs do you have?
Okay, I only have 2 dogs, but I have a lot of cats. But I'd have more dogs, except this dog is fierce.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Do the cats and the dogs get along?
Oh, yeah. The cats and dogs do get along. But there are some new cats here now, so he has a muzzle on him just in case they piss him off, because he's a big dog,
Yeah. Well, it's, as of the recording of this, the fires are going on in Los Angeles, and it's one of those things we were... Right now, where we're at is pretty safe. So we were going to try to house some people and whatnot, but it was a little difficult because we have a very small place, and my cat Lucy, she's a senior, and so friends with pets and stuff. We were like, geez, I mean, we'd really love to have them, but we just can't right now. It would just traumatize Lucy too much.
It would probably just be too annoying for everyone, on top of what the people are going through, and it would stress you out, and then they would be more stressed out. There are, a lot of companies seem to be helping out. I don't know if there's a catch with it, but right. I think it's a pretty good time to. You don't want to be in a more stressful situation with senior pets or their pets, or no. I get it.
The devil, she just showed up. She must have been talking about her.
How old is she?
She's 18. Yeah.
Oh, that is so great.
She's so sweet. She's the sweetest. Here, let me lift her up a little bit so you can...
A beautiful black cat. Oh, yeah, I have one that kind of looks like her called Drew. Yeah, and Drew doesn't really like other cats either, but here she is with a bunch of other cats. The cats that end up here, they have to adjust. It's I got you off death row, so I don't know what to tell you, to most of the cats. They just have to adjust.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into all that, all your animal rescuing, but I want to start further back. I don't know much about your origin story, so fill me in. Where'd you grow up? What kind of brought you to the life you got?
Oh, yeah. So it's a weird one. I was born in England, and I moved to Florida when I was about 9 because of my dad's job. My dad was a tabloid editor, and the tabloids were based out of Florida in the 70s and 80s. And they recruited a lot of reporters from, England, especially. But
what was
also
the big tabloid in England back then?
Oh, well, they recruited him from the Daily Mail.
Okay.
Or yeah, I think it was the Mail or the Mirror. Was it the Mirror? I always get those two mixed up. But anyway, I think he was on the Mail, and they recruited my dad. And those were just like the British papers. Like they did have tits in them, and they did have a lot of celebrity gossip, but they also had just a lot of good political and local news. So they wanted people who could really write and who could, write about scandals concisely and with pizzazz. And they were getting all these reporters from like News of the World, the Daily Mirror, the Daily Mail, and those guys were getting their friends. And there were a lot of incentives, and we got a green card really easily. I mean, it was like the mid 70s. So we were in Florida, and I went to high school, college in Florida. I did a lot of theater, got a theater degree. It was so much fun. And then after college, I worked at a theater for a while. It was a children's theater, but I pretty much turned it into an adult theater.
Where was this? What part of Florida?
It was in Boynton Beach, Florida, South Florida.
Okay. So
like Florida's really different. Like North Florida is more like your like Bible Belt. Mm-hmm. South Florida is more like Miami, and
sure.
And some of it's still like kind of basic, but there's a lot more happening there. I did a lot of theater in Florida and some bad movies, and when I was in my mid-20s, that's when I moved to LA.
So what made you decide to move to LA?
Well, I was with a guy, and he wanted to move to LA, and I really wanted to go to Greece because I had been to Greece a couple of times, and I was just like, I want to get away from everything. I want to write. I want to enjoy Greece. And then I got into this, more status quo relationship kind of thing. Like I didn't want to go toward marriage or having kids, but we did end up moving out here together and got a dog and had an apartment. And then we broke up, and there's a cat sneezing. He's fine. And we I got into stand-up. And that was, I'd say, in my late 20s. Yeah, by that point. So it was,
you went to LA, had a breakup, and decided, okay, I'm going to do stand-up.
Yeah. I saw an ad in the back of the LA Weekly. It was for a stand-up class taught by Greg Dean. And there was a free audit. And we're talking like 1997. Ish, So I went to the free audit, and I thought this will be cool. There's a lot of guys in this. This is different. Because when I first came to LA, I was doing some screenwriting, but I really wanted to perform. But I wasn't established in LA theater. Although I saw a lot of good theater, I was kind of like, I did all this, and I want to do something different. That isn't so many people. So yeah, stand up. You can rehearse by yourself. I mean, you do need people. Like you do need people.
You need people when you do it. But
yeah. But so I got into stand up, and once I got into stand up, I like turned 30, and then I never took a break. I like never had a week where I didn't have gigs, be it open mics or small gigs, and then I started hosting. I mean, I never got out of stand up once I got in. Mm-hmm. Not bragging or anything. But.
Do you still love it?
Yeah, I still love it.
Yeah,
it's never boring. It's always challenging. Sometimes I have to say, honor your gift, just sit down with pen and paper, rehearse. I have to make myself practice. But my life has changed a lot in the past couple of years since I moved to the desert, and I'm not near any stand-up venues at all. But I love it. It's like probably the only thing I've ever taken on that I haven't run out of steam, haven't stopped being challenged and excited by. I never want to stop doing stand-up.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things. Like I always say that too. I'm just like, I will do stand up until I physically can't get on stage anymore. I like, this is actually something that's been sort of recent for me. Well, it hasn't been recent, but I've come to embrace it more recently, where I'm definitely a variety is the spice of life type creator. And I've come to realize that if I'm ever doing too much of one thing, I get frustrated. and I just need the right balance. Like I was a road comic for years, and I got burnt out on it, and I was like, I don't like this. And then in more recent years, it's been very heavy production, and not enough stand up. And so I'm just sort of realizing, like, yeah, I need to walk that line where I have a balance of things, which in a way, I guess, kind of works out because, like, presumably one of them will be better at paying the bills than the others at any given time, and it all comes out in the wash. But yeah, that's just something that I've finally just understood, you know?
No, you're smart that you have to really invest in other things because, I mean, it's really hard not to have stand-up be your number one.
Mm-hmm.
There really is an all or nothing commitment factor to it. And, like, I did that for over 20 years in LA, you know, like like a 5 or 6 or 7 shows a week all year round, except for the holidays. And I talk about that sometimes. I was talking about that even like on my OnlyFans, that if you are like a comedian or you're a singer or you're in a band or you're in a play or play after play, like really the only time you're ever off is around Christmas. Yeah. That's pretty much it. That's when stuff is dark and people go see a movie on Christmas Day. But otherwise, you're pretty much performing every week, especially the kind of shows I host, which are like bringer, money makers. Those, it doesn't matter if it's the day after Thanksgiving. There's a show. There's money to be made. So it is really all or nothing. And I went for it for, you know, well over 20 years. And this is like where my finances kind of got me, you know, out in the West Mojave Desert. So I respect being able to sort of say, I have to work on this now. And maybe this is going to be 2 years of writing scripts and getting movies made and, you know, seeing where that breaks. And I think it's smart. Like, I think it's good. You have a railroad experience. I never really had that because I was hosting gigs in LA and, like, you know, why go on the road when you're in front of the Comedy Store every Friday night? Every time I would go on the road, the money was crappy. Sometimes the crowds were just like so Trumpy and crappy. And I'm like, I should just stay at the Comedy Store. But it will make you a better comic. And I do think it's important to do that when you're developing as a comic, to get as many experiences as you can.
Wasn't it really hard to make money and stand up in LA, though? I mean, because like I don't really make money in stand up in LA. I mean,
it's really hard unless you produce. And I never wanted to produce because I'm not enough into riding people's butts, and I'm not good at sales, and I'm not good at twisting people's arms and saying, you got to bring all your friends or coworkers. So I just want to host the show. I just want to tell jokes and steer the ship and be in the show any way I can. But I never really wanted to produce comedy in LA or anywhere. So yeah, I mean, at my level at hosting, it's really been hard to make a living over the years, and hence the desert. It's leading us there.
So what, how did you then find your way into films? And then I know you've done some adult films as well. Like, how did you find your way into all that?
Well, always had an acting background. You know, I was in like horror movies, even in Florida. And I came out here and I met somebody who produced a lot of horror movies, and he's still like my best guy friend. And, you know, we've done a bunch of movies. I've been in a bunch, helped him write them, produce some. That's Dennis Devine. He's great. Our newest movie is Nightmare in Argus, and that just came out. It's all set in the desert. And that one's really cool. It's on YouTube and Amazon right now. And then as far as adult films, it kind of all happened, I'd say like Y2K. Like I told you, I found out about comedy from the back of the LA Weekly. And then a few years later, I found out about this fetish dungeon in Los Angeles. And I always had all these like secret, you know, or not so secret if anyone wanted to listen, you know.
Yeah.
But I had all these like desires to say like be a stripper or something. And after being in comedy for a little while, I remember I met someone and she said, do you want to do like sessions with me? Like she was a dominatrix. And she said, and this other guy, he was a comedian, but he designed fetish wear. And he sort of said, hey, can I dress you, take photos of you? And he was cool. He wasn't even trying to hit on me or anything. And then this other woman said, we can make money. I'm going to have you like, spank a guy in front of me. And I was kind of like, sure, sounds weird. And it never happened. But I started thinking like, oh, there's this whole scene out here where both professionally and personally people seem to like to play. And then I saw this ad in the back of the LA Weekly, and it was this fetish dungeon. And, I'd always wanted to be a stripper, but I can't dance. So I basically called them and I was like, if I can't dance, can I still work for you? And they're like, oh, can you take pain and humiliation? I'm like, as long as it's not because of dancing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, so what made you want to do that? What is it empowering or like what made you?
Exhibitionism. Okay. I don't know exactly where that comes from, but I will say that coming from a British family, like your parents are always walking around naked, It's not sexual. Like they're just hot. Like we moved to Florida, I don't mean like sexy hot. I mean like humid, like really humid. But my parents were always naked, and they always let my brother and I be naked. And we were always like, naked at Disneyland. Well, underwear. Like we would have like British panty, like British Marks and Spencer full panties on, like we were just these kids and like topless kids. And I mean, I was like 9, like I was like 9 and I was a cute kid and I was always running around topless. And then I remember like at a certain point in my life, like boys just started like staring at me a little bit, and I was, oh, okay. And then the nudity stopped, but I sort of became like this exhibitionist. Like I was always flashing my friends. And sometimes if I would get a balcony, like at a hotel, and my parents would be like in the bedroom or bathroom, I'd run out on the balcony and flash. I was maybe like 12, 13, and I just thought it was so much fun. So it's a little bit of like an exhibitionist streak that I don't have anymore, and I miss it. But it was like part of puberty and my sexuality. And, I was just, and I would strip. I remember like always wanting to strip for like my guy friends. Now this was when I was like 6 or 7,
Okay.
Because like once you get into
the other
school,
6 and 7-year-olds to do it.
No, not always.
I think they'd be confused.
They were kind of scared. There would always be like one that was, but some of them were just like hostages, quite honestly. I'm sorry to all those guys I subjected to that in the 70s. So if you're watching and I hope you're okay. So there were just always a lot of things going on. I was always writing like dirty stories and pornographic cartoons. I like to draw, I was just a really pervy kid, and I kind of managed to hide it, but that kept coming up in my life. And, I was really curious about that ad. And then I went into that fetish dungeon in North Hollywood, and I didn't understand any of the fetishes, and I had no specific fetish I wanted to explore. I just kind of wanted to get naked, earn money, and not dance. That's really all I wanted. And I started making so much money there, getting like spanked and tied up and tickled and other role plays because I could act, so everyone was like, role play, she's the girl for role play. Was
there actual pain involved, or was it more like
yeah
really? like
that's what starts happening is like you start getting your ass beat, and you have like marks, and you have rope marks, and you have cuts, and you start getting into these wild sessions and making more money and pushing the edges. And these guys will be like, well, you know, I've never hung anyone upside down, but I really want to try it on you. And like your nose is bleeding and you're going for it and you're making like $500 cash a day, and your body starts hurting. And then at night I'd be sleeping, and sometimes my body would just like jerk, you know?
Oh, wow.
Like the cadaver in like Texas Chainsaw, like the original one, she like jumps out of the ice chest, you know, like that's what I would feel like. And then I was kind of like, Sally, you can't keep up this extreme lifestyle. You have bruises, you have like a saddle on your butt, like a skin of being beaten. And that's when you have to become a dominatrix. Even if you really aren't turned on by dominating people so much, it's a way to survive.
Sure.
And you have to transition to that if your body wants to survive. So you start out as a submissive and you learn about it, and then you become a switch, and then you become a full-on dominatrix because
So is that what you did next?
Yeah, you just graduate. Like over the course of the year, you kind of, you know, and I would still see like certain clients and submit to them. And a lot of dominants would be like that. They'd say, well, I'll still see so-and-so because he's cool. But most of the time you have to kind of protect yourself after a while. I think it's for your body as much as your mind. Like,
well, did you ever enjoy any of that stuff? Like just,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you were into it.
Yeah. Sometimes I was really into it.
Really? So, well, I mean, just, if you're willing, like explain to me, like I just don't understand how real pain can be pleasurable. Like I get like a little bit of like hair pulling as like a sort of like, you know, whatever. And I mean, spanking I get, but not to the point of this is painful. Like I just don't understand why there's still pleasure when that line is crossed. Like,
well, they have to know what they're doing. I mean, like in spanking, for example, if you're doing a scene in a movie or even a spanking video, like it can be a punishment spanking where there's no warm up and it can hurt at first, you know, but if it's going to be a session and you're spending half an hour in a room with a stranger, then he can't just lay into you. Like He has to warm you up to where it starts to feel good after a while because your body is warmed up. I mean, that could probably be done with a lot of things to where, you know, your skin's getting conditioned, receptive, endorphins, whatever. So, you know, there's an art to that. And if somebody doesn't know what they're doing, you had the right, of course, to cut, safe word, mercy, let's start over, let's dial it back. You know, that would happen too. And some sessions would just be like crazy tedious, and you're just fighting for turf. You're fighting for ground. You keep having to say mercy, mercy. And when is this session going to end? I'm just trying to get paid. I mean, there's a lot of that too, you know, just like in any kind of work, but a lot, like sometimes you get turned on and you're like, I would never want to date this person. I never want to see this person after this. But right now, this is really hot and so freaky or whatever, you know, that would happen.
That's interesting. Have you ever had to like just guide somebody who was a beginner, just kind of walk them through it and teach them?
Yeah, that would happen all the time, but that would mainly happen once I at least became a switch, because I would have a guy come in and he would go, I want to explore being dominated, but I don't want to get beaten. I don't want to get called names and insulted. I don't want marks on me because I'm married. I picked you because you seem nice, but I do want to. And I'm like, okay, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of objectivity, a little bit of spanking, a little bit of humiliation. Okay, we got this, you know, and, you know, that would be like half an hour to 45 minutes. And yeah, you got a lot of people coming in there who were like, well, I usually go to strip clubs, but what's this all about?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got your people who knew exactly what they wanted and had been getting it for years, and it was just your turn to get it. Oh, new girl? All right, I'm going to do a session with you.
So then how was it when you just became a dominatrix? Like, did you like that better?
No, it wasn't as hot. And it
Really?
wasn't as exciting. It became more boring because I'm mainly submissive, but I will tell you, I was quite good at it. And I filled a need because I was a dominatrix who would get naked and I had a good sense of humor. And a lot of guys, like I said, they wanted like a light dominatrix. So people were, I had a lot of clients and it wasn't as hot, but it was still fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I made some really good friendships.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned your family and stuff too, because I feel like the United States in general, and I'm curious your take on this. I feel like the U.S. is very puritanical when it comes to just our bodies, and a lot of other places are not like that in comparison. Like it's just not a big deal. We all got them, whatever. And they're just a little more, I guess, liberated, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I do feel like that. I do feel like, nudity was a little easier and more chill in other countries. I remember coming to America as a kid, though, and I didn't know like what sexual assault really was or molestation. Like I really didn't have like a concept or an awareness. And my parents never talked about sex with me. I never got like a birds and the bees talk. So I was just kind of piecemealing it. And I remember some people telling me like, you're too, you're wearing your clothes so tight. Like some of my friends would say like, you're going to get raped and I was a kid. And so I became very afraid at a certain point in my life of, becoming a victim of a crime or something because people were telling me that. So I do remember things kind of going another way. And I might have sexualized some of that as well in order to be able to cope with the fear on a daily basis, of people saying like, because of how you are, you're in great danger. I maybe I like flashed in front of a friend and they're like, oh, that's not a good idea around here. Something's going to happen. And
well, what was kind of the rush with that? Like when you would flash somebody, like what was was it just funny or was it just like exciting or?
It was both. It was like their reaction. It was the last thing that they expected and they didn't seem to hate it, Mm-hmm. I would do it to guys, I wasn't like doing it to like, my female friends and stuff, but sometimes I'd do it.
They might have liked it too.
Friends. Yeah, they might have. They might have.
Too. I mean, even, whether they're heterosexual or not, I think everybody appreciates breasts. I mean, I think they're universal.
It might have been power. It might have been like power over guys or something. Mm-hmm. Might have been just a way to get guys' power. Are you guys okay? Might have just been a way to get like guys' power and attention at a certain time in my life. I don't know where it was coming from, but it was a strong urge.
So you're not still at that dungeon, I take it? Is that
No.
Okay.
That was my early 30s and I feel like all that was connected and I loved the fact that I could go in there and make money with my body, make money with nudity, make money by having a certain look, make money by having following, friends, being friendly. So I really enjoyed it. And then I started making videos like out of that. And they were spanking. I started specializing in spanking. And I met a friend who was really into it. And we started producing spanking videos. And this was like 2001, like VHS. We were selling spanking videos on VHS. Through the mail, and PayPal like froze our money one time,
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had to like bitch. I got our money. I got our money back from the Church of PayPal.
How did you find like the audiences for that?
Well, they had conventions and I had clients. And there were things like alt.com, like dating services for people into kink. But there was a group called Shadow Lane, and shadowlane.com is still up and they sell videos. And I started starring in their videos. and all the other spanking producers who were established, I would say, hey, you know, I'm the new kid in town. I'll come do a video with you for content trade. And this was before people were even doing content trade.
Like, what does that mean exactly?
Like, you don't have to pay me, but we could both use the content. You know?
Okay. Gotcha.
But some people would go for that, but other studios will be like, no, we'll just pay you. We want to shoot you. So I started getting my name out there as a model and a producer and a spanking enthusiast, and going to the conventions, and, you know, like, it was like posting on boards and having blogs, because this was 2003, 4, you know, things like that.
Well, it's interesting because the porn industry was the first, well, maybe not the first, but like among the first to really embrace the internet and figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact. So it's like, what was that like, having a little bit of an inside peek there? Like, did everyone just have the foresight, like, hey, this internet is going to be a big thing? Because this was, I mean, porn was there before everyone even had a dial-up connection.
Well, I always wish I was better at tech. You know, I guess I'm not horrible, because I can at least survive. I can at least get to the desert. But a lot of people in spanking and fetishes, they had made a buttload of money before the internet. Mm-hmm. They were advertising like in the back of Cosmopolitan magazine or the New Yorker, you know, personal ads, selling VHS tapes for like $50 because people couldn't get this stuff, or they were distributing them in like you know, not like Circus of Books, but like, you know, porn stores, stuff like that. Like they were making a lot of money before the internet, and some of them couldn't transition. But I did come into the game, you know, like after Y2K. So right away I was on the internet, and if I would have been better with tech, I could have made more money. But as it were, you know, we had a company, and, you know, we made pretty decent money. We had like 5 or 6 websites and produced a lot of videos, cast a lot of spanking models. I feel like I have spanked like just about every porn actress. A lot of people who are dead. I've spanked a lot of dead people, you know. And then around like 2009, I once again started getting really bored. Like, I wasn't as into spanking as all the fans were. I would go to spanking conventions, and I just kind of felt like everyone was high on their own supply except me, you know. So I sold my interest in the company, and I still do the videos because it's good money and I have great fans. But I sold my part of the company, and then I started to do my own more traditional porn, you know, like it started out solo, and it was a lot of fetishes, but it was like just me, like less hassle, less casting, less paperwork, you know.
Sure, yeah.
Work when you want, be on your own schedule. So that's when I started just doing more like nudity, you know, and that led to doing hardcore porn, because that's kind of how porn is. You know, you might start out saying, well, I'm just going to do solo, and then I'm just going to do girl, and then I'm going to do boy-girl, but I'm not going to do butt stuff. And then, you know, you just kind of run out of things to hold out on. So that's how that went.
So, do you still do a lot of horror stuff? I mean, you mentioned like a lot of indie horror stuff. Are you into horror?
I'm not as into horror as I was growing up. I was really into horror like in middle school and high school, and then I kind of started to feel bad about it, and I started to feel scared about it, and I started getting kind of bored by a lot of the movies, and especially a lot of the movies I was in. It's like this formulaic, you know, like hot girls' cars break down, and it just started, you know, but I did just make this horror movie, and I think it's kind of different because there's like a couple of different stories going on, and there are a lot of female talent in it. But I'm not like a huge horror fan. I mean, I do still get into it, but I prefer a psychological thriller over horror any day. Even though I have a big dog now, and I'm not scared anymore to live alone, but I am scared. I'm still scared. I'm scared of murders. I feel like it's a lot better because of DNA, fewer serial killers. Because have you noticed on the podcast, like they're running out of true crimes? Like, all these true crime podcasts are like reaching back, and I'm like, John Benet Ramsey, like, come on, can we have like some new material here?
I mean, there's always a solid true crime documentary is always just going to crush it. And Netflix figured that out a long time ago.
Well, we have to. Yeah, we have to. But now, like, instead of like serial killers, we have like more like, what's it called? Like familicide, like the dad shooting his whole family up. Like there's more of that now. There's more of that now because that's either like the guy is so dumb. He thinks he's totally going to get away with it. Like he thinks he can just have a new girlfriend and like erase the whole family. It's some sort of like men's rights agenda or something. and then, or he's, like he just doesn't care and he kills himself as well. Like he either thinks he's totally going to get away with it or he kills himself. It's one or the other. There's no familicide guy who's like, this could go either way.
That's really funny.
It's true.
You should have a bit about that if you don't already. That's really funny.
Remind me
I
later.
Will. Well, do you kind of see a through line between comedy, indie horror, and then, nudity? Like, do you kind of see like a connection there between all those? Because I feel like a lot of cases could be made. I'm just curious your take on it.
I'd say the through line is poverty.
Okay. All right.
Well, yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I'm a bit of an underdog. I like to make money doing subversive things. I am not, what we call basic now. I was calling mainstream in the 90s. Oh, he's so mainstream. Oh, that's just too mainstream for me. The things I watch, the things I also want to be in, I don't know what this weird path is that I've been on, but it might have something to do with self-esteem issues. But I really do like to make money doing subversive things. It feels good. And I've been my own boss since like 2006. People are like asking me people asking me like HR questions recently, like just because I'm older or I've played like an HR person in a porn or something. they're asking me for like, like advice on taking this job or not. And I mean, I'm not the one to ask.
That's funny. Because I guess I just see there's a certain vulnerability to all those things. I mean, being on stage with just your jokes, being, not clothed, and then just being afraid. I mean, it's like there's like vulnerability in all of those, and it's embracing that vulnerability in every case.
It's probably something that I do to feel alive. It's probably something I do to feel, excited, and it might have come out of growing up in chaos. And I had a brother who he had a lot of drama. He had a lot of personality disorder and a lot of drug use. And there's I do think I got kind of schooled in chaos, and that wasn't my family's intent, but there was a lot of violence and chaos, growing up. And there was a lot of mind blowing things going on.
Was it just your brother, or was it your parents too?
Mainly. Yeah. My brother. Yeah. It was my brother mainly. I remember working at the fetish dungeon, and you're seeing all this weird stuff. I mean, you've got a guy who wants you to put a catheter in his dick, and you're not a nurse.
God.
You've got things like that.
Scary. That's just scary. Why would you want to do that? I mean, that's most guys. That's like our worst nightmare. We never want that to happen to us.
That's something they processed, sexualized in order to be able to cope. And I don't know what happened to them, and they might not even know either. And why does this guy want his ball sack nailed to a chair? By the way, that was the same guy, catheter and ball sack nailed to a chair. So a nice guy. Yeah. I wonder how he is now. But you're seeing these things, and part of you is like, you've been a bad boy and you're going to get your money, but your mind is kind of blowing. And I used to think to myself some days after I worked at the fetish dungeon, I'd say, who else is seeing this level of stuff? And it's kind of what like people might call depravity, you know? And I'd go, a cop has to see this kind of stuff. And way worse, because a cop's seeing life and death. Yeah, but a cop
depends on where they're a cop at, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. And also, some cops have their slow days where they're just eating donuts. And you know what? So would we at the fetish dungeon, quite honestly. But you know, it's like a cop or the military. I'm sure that every day, people in the military having to keep it together while their minds are kind of being expanded.
That's why we have PTSD the way we do.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think working in the fetish dungeon, I mean, every freaking day, you're just like, I have this guy who's getting me to do a role play, and I'm naked and I'm on my hands and knees, and I'm talking about like letting a donkey sniff me. And, you know, you're like, all right, this is a pretty easy session. You know, I don't feel like getting beaten today, so I'm going to talk to the donkey. And, you know, like this, and then you kind of you get home and you're like, wow, I need to decompress. And
I gotta ask before we move on to something else. Did you succeed with the catheter? Does that guy still have his dick?
Well, I was not the head nurse. I was the nurse's
okay, that's good.
Yeah, so he basically just wanted somebody else to witness it, and who better than the nurse trainee, you know?
Sure.
So
it
was Mistress.
Do?
Yeah,
okay.
She was great. Mistress Lori.
Wow.
Yeah, she was great. Mistress Lori was a real dominatrix, but she was really lifestyle. Like, she was very submissive in real life, and she would be like very into getting tied up, and she was into like 24/7, like real life. I mean, all of these worlds I've walked in, I was always sort of the curious, but you would get around some really heavy players who really knew their craft. And like, stand up is one of the only things where I'm like, I'm well versed. I'm a person who's paid their dues and has way more experience than most other people. And it just happened organically. But all of these other worlds, like the kink, like there's people who are really good at it.
Yeah, I mean, if you could put a catheter in someone with no prior experience, that would be a nightmare to me. I mean, that would be like the scariest thing. Like some not trained professional is putting a catheter in me for some reason. Like,
well, I feel like Mistress Lori.
She's a professional, but I mean, she's not a nurse, or was she? Was she a nurse? Right.
I don't think
medical professional is what I meant.
No, I don't think so. I don't think she was a nurse. No.
Oh, that's wild.
She was pretty amazing.
So let's get into another portion of your life quilt here, and that's all the stuff you do with animals.
Yes.
Oh, you just muted yourself. Yeah, you just muted yourself. It just did it. There we go. We're back.
Sorry. That must have been a weird hand move. Like when we started talking about animal rescue, some sort of life force came out of me. I've been into rescue for a long time, on and off. I remember when I first moved to LA, and this was like before I got into stand-up. So we're talking like 96, 97. I got a job as a volunteer coordinator at a rescue, but I remember it just sort of, it's a lot of time, a lot of money. And it started sort of taking over my life a little bit. So I was like, whoa, I gotta back off. And then I got into stand up so much. And then I would say coming back to rescue, probably like the early part of 2020, pre-COVID. So I got back into rescue a little bit around then. And since I moved in 2022, it wasn't my intention, but I've gotten way back into it. And it's a combination of like the people in the desert really needing help and being kind of easy to help because most of them already have pets. So it's not so much like a pushing pets on them problem, but it's trying to help them with their pets, like get their pets fixed.
Yeah.
There's no vet. Like there's not a vet for like 30 minutes away. I moved to this place, Ron. I moved to this place with all my animals, and I basically have to move out of LA because I have too many animals. And then I moved to a place that has no vets.
Oh, that's tough. How many animals do you have? What is the tally?
Okay, it's a lot. So right now I have 2 dogs and I have 1 foster dog. So there's 3 dogs in the house. And I have 18 cats.
Wow.
But I have 3 of my ex's cats that I evacuated from the fire yesterday. So I have 21 cats in the house right now.
Wow. That is how... And how big is your house, if you don't mind my asking?
It's big.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a lot of rooms.
Okay, that's good.
Backyard. It's got a lot of rooms and a huge backyard, and it's got like a huge Arizona room, which is like a converted garage, and it's got this add-on room. It's a lot of rooms. I still need more.
That's amazing.
It's a lot.
And they're all indoor cats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it smells. Wow. Yeah, it smells.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna happen with that many. Yeah.
I'm high on cat piss. That's my secret.
I feel like, I mean, can you smell it all the time? Like, do you notice it?
Yeah.
You do? Okay. Because I feel like, I mean, I only have one cat.
I'm not dead.
No. Well, but I think a lot of people, they don't notice when it's theirs. You know, like when it's their cat or their dog, they don't notice.
Well, Mike is that strong that I smell myself. Yeah.
I think with 21 that rule goes out the window. But I was still curious. That's amazing. So did you always love animals? Like, did you have pets growing up?
Oh yeah. I mean, we're British.
Okay. Is that a thing? I mean, I didn't even know. Like, are British people really into pets?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's part of the family. I mean, most Brits and we love our pets, and it's just really part of the family. I mean, not that means everything to everyone, because some people think Brits don't even love their own families, but maybe we love our pets more. I don't know. But we always have them. We just always have them. I mean, we even brought our animals from England when we moved to America. So there was no like giving away your pets or rehoming your pets. I mean, I'd say they were preferred members of the family.
You know what's ironic about all that too, though? I love London. It's one of my favorite places. And I, entertained the idea of, man, maybe I would like to live in London at some point.
6 months quarantine.
That's what turned me off. I was like, I can't do it. I mean, Lucy is a senior. She is not going to be quarantined. That just cannot happen. So no. I literally crossed London off the list. I'm like, well, I'm not going to live in London.
Isn't it weird that even in the 70s that was going on? Now, didn't you just do comedy in England?
Yeah, I did. We had a Left at Wall screening in London. So I did a screening, and then I did some stand-up in town while I was there.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's performing over. You should totally, if you've never performed over there, you should totally perform. You totally.
I know. I was just there recently, and I can't believe, or like a year and a half ago, but I can't believe I didn't look that up. I was too busy like watching the ABBA show and drinking, but yeah, no, that's cool. And how did the screening go over there?
It was cool. I mean, it was cool. I mean, it was cool to see international people watch the movie, and I mean, and although it's it's just London, but and I don't mean just London, I just mean our humor is pretty much the same. Yeah. It's not like these were people who didn't know English watching Left at Wall. but it was really cool. I mean, and I got to see some friends, I got to see some colleagues, and one of my comedian friends, she had a great. I asked her, I was like, did you like the film? And she goes, it was too short and there was no nudity. That was her feedback. It was too short and she wanted more sex. Yeah.
Was there topless in that movie or not? Did I wear a bikini?
You were not. You had on. You had like a bikini type thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't wait for you to see the final thing. Your scene's a lot. You got a lot of laughs.
Oh, I'm so happy.
You've gotten lots of laughs at every screening. You've gotten a lot of laughs. Our scenes turned out really well, and we did it ahead of time with this software, and then I was actually when I was actually in the room with the DP, it was just someone read your lines, for that. That was like the way we did it, and then we made it happen in post. But yeah, those scenes get a lot of laughs. That was fun. I had a lot. I was so happy you were down to do it, and I really enjoyed having you be part of it. So,
that was so fun. That was so fun to do. Now it's coming out on. Is it the 24th?
The 24th. People can pre-order it now on Apple TV, and then it's officially out on the 24th. And I'm gonna be doing some events that obviously I'll try to have you be part of. I know you're not in LA all the time, but I was hoping you were going to be able to be part of the thing on the 15th, but I know you could only get in so much. But yeah, I'll be doing that. I mean, the reason I haven't been as on top of that is because of all the fires this week. I haven't really been able to wrap my head around that. But yeah, we'll be doing this stuff.
I'll try to figure it out because. Yeah, I'm really curious now. So yeah, let's talk about it because I think some of my shows, because of the fires, are not going to be happening, and
we're all just one day at a time right now, aren't we? I mean, it's like we're all just one day at a time. I mean, because if something's nowhere near the fires, I mean, it might as well happen. But you never know. It's a weird time. It's a weird time to be alive, and a weird time to be in California, and
Oh, yeah, it's so incredibly freaky. My ex-husband lives in Altadena, and in order to perform
is he okay?
Yeah. See, I went there yesterday because he came. I didn't even know this was happening, and I got a text from him Tuesday night showing his street, and I said, "Well, you better evacuate," but he wasn't on the evacuation map yet. And he said, "I'm too drunk, and I wanted him to get the cats, and then he didn't have a cat carrier because I had all the cat carriers, but I had been leaving him cat carriers, but then the last couple of weeks I needed them. And then I go, oh my gosh, this can't be on me. So 5 a.m, I woke up and I saw that he was in the evacuation area, and his neighbor was texting me saying she beat on his door. And I was like, oh God, he's drunk. He's not waking up. So I called him, and, his electricity's out. He's hungover. He's freezing. And he goes, oh, yeah, I got to get out of here. He goes, I don't have a carrier. I'm not going to be able to take these cats. And I was like, you're going to make that work. I was like screaming, oh, no. I'm like, if you don't get those cats out, I'm going there and getting those cats out. So I just started driving. Toward LA. But he did. He got the cats in like a gear bag, 3 cats in like a carry-on.
Okay.
And 2 of them were large, and he took it to his work. And then I went and met him at his work, and I got the cats because he's having to stay at his work, which is like a mechanic shop. He can't be taking care of 3 cats there. It's not it's not safe for 3 cats. So that's the 3 cats I brought back here yesterday.
It's a wild time. We all got to stay safe. But in closing for this, go ahead, plug away. Tell everyone where they can learn more about you and plug all the stuff you want.
Can I say adult stuff too? Is that okay?
Whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I have a PG-13 OnlyFans, and I also have an adult OnlyFans. My adult OnlyFans is Ms. Jamie Foster, and I think Sally Funny is my PG one, and you can see that on all my links, which is Sally Mullins, Mullins. It's all on there. So yeah, that would be great. Sally Mullins 818 is my Instagram. I have a lot of cheesy, stupid reels on there, and if you say you heard me on here, I'll follow you back for sure.
Nice. Well, Sally, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me and putting up with me always.
That was Sally Mullins. Be sure to check out all of her stuff. Music for the 1000 podcast is provided by Andrew Saxonov. Be sure to check out his podcast, the Baywatching Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a 5-star review, would you? This is still a new podcast. Every 5-star review helps. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, you can do so over at patreon.com/romflacone. For a Give What You Can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, the podcast before they're released, full stand-up sets not available anywhere else, insider info on upcoming films and productions, and we do a Zoom hangout once a month. It's a really cool community over on Patreon, and that's for a Give What You Can level. And speaking of community, as y'all know, or I think most of you know, probably everyone does at this point, there are the fires in Southern California. It's been a time for everyone in the area, and I want to say thank you very much to everyone who reached out, to everyone who messaged me and emailed and checked in. It's very, very appreciated. We are very fortunate to be in an area that was not heavily impacted, but a lot of friends have lost their homes. A lot of friends have had to evacuate. It's a wild time, and it has been a devastating thing. So all those impacted are in our thoughts, and it's just been quite a time. And I want to say thank you for being part of this. And I wish everyone out there health and safety through these difficult times. See you next week. Hey guys, Ron Flacone here. Take your own 1,000 challenge. No, you don't need to interview 1,000 people, although if you want to do that, go for it. Your 1,000 challenge can be whatever you want. Maybe you want to call a friend out of the blue once a week. Maybe you want to read a book every month. Maybe you want to start a different garden every season. I guess that might be dependent on where you live. Look, the point of the challenge is taking on an endeavor that enriches your life in some way, and it can be measured. And then, of course, you do it regularly. That's what 1,000 is doing for me, and hopefully for you too. The main reason for this podcast and every podcast I've ever done is to build community. So take your own challenge. Then join our Facebook group. It's called 1,000 What's Your Challenge? ? That's 1,000 What's Your Challenge ? And post about what your 1,000 challenge is and the progress you're making. All I ask is that people be encouraging of each other's challenges. This is personal and vulnerable, so be cool. There's enough negativity on social media. We don't need to add to it. For those of you who aren't on Facebook, hopefully in the future we'll be expanding to places like Discord, Reddit, but for now, we're starting on Facebook. And again, that Facebook group is called 1,000 What's Your Challenge? See you there.